Hit go live. Oh, we are live.
Okay.
All right. Hello and welcome back to Week of Movie Bros, where I am Jacob from Jacob's Here, joined by my brother, who is also the co-host of this channel.
Hi, I'm Ray, and I'm from RZ Jones 18 exclamation point.
There's a 6 in there? I don't remember there being a 6
No,
in there.
RZ Jones 18.
Okay, cool. We are talking about Joker 2019. I did put 2019 because he's such a popular character. He's never had his own movie, but I figured it'd be easier for people to find it this way. But we're talking about the newest movie that came out in October came out last weekend. And yeah, I don't even know how to describe this movie except
there are a few things in life that look at you and go, "You see how perfect I am? Immaculated it." And that's what Todd Phillips' Joker did for me. This is as close to what you can call masterpiece as you can get. Wow.
And with the masterpiece, there are many different reasons of why what makes a masterpiece. In today's video, this discussion will be talking mostly closely of the reasons why we think this is a perfect movie, what they did right, and what maybe they have done wrong. I do think there's a few instances in this movie that I would have changed or tweaked just a little, but not enough for me not to say this is a perfect movie. There's smaller things that could easily be
like this small,
like itsy bitsy. And so I am going to ask my brother. We already went through some discussion points that we want to talk about on which one he's most interested in starting with.
Moments. I want to get right into it, man. I want to get right into it.
So what he's talking about, as you guys can see, we are going to be talking about our favorite moments. These are moments in the movie, or the moment in the movie that really truly made the movie.
I would switch the E and the T.
Oh, well. Hold on. We're going to go back to Joker here, and I'm just going to go...
I was like, what's favorite T?
I'm going to correct some things. Okay.
While he's doing that, I'll finish what he was explaining. Basically, what this is that these are our favorite... You know how to spell the word favorite?
Did I spell it wrong
again? So basically what we're going to talk about is that, by the way, full spoilers going into this, obviously.
Yeah, discussions are always spoiler. We'll tell you if there's on spoiler.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, before we jump into our favorite moments, Zachary, tell people right now a non-spoiler thing. And then going forward, we'll do all spoilers.
This film has done something for me that not even Marvel has done, which is perfectly depicted a superhero / supervillain character from the comics without even mentioning comic book lore in this film. I don't know how Todd went into Warner Bros. And said, "This is Joker. You guys have done Joker well over the course of your overall run as a company, but my Joker is as close as we can get to doing a proper Joker." And the last 30 minutes of this movie is nothing short of pure brilliance. They perfectly executed things that, if done in a different way, would have felt wrong. It would have felt out of place, and it would have not worked. But the fact that I could realistically see what I saw in my theater in the real world, means that they nailed what they were going for with this movie. And Joaquin Phoenix deserves the Oscar. Not nomination, the Oscar. There is nothing with a short doubt in my mind that he will win, and rightfully deserves it. Phillips should win for director, and this should win Best Picture. As of right now, I am stating that. That's how I feel.
I feel completely the same way. I don't honestly know if he's going to win or not. I don't know if they're going to feel like it will take away from what Heath Ledger did almost 10 years ago. Actually, over 10 years ago now. So I don't know if they will. I don't know how they'll deal with that situation. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes to actual award season. That would be the only reason why I think Hakeem might not win. That's, of course, a different discussion for a different time. My non-spoiler review is go see Joker. Like, I don't really have anything to tell you. The less you know, the better enjoyment you have. There's a lot more twists and turns in this than you actually believe, and some really, really good moments.
Yes.
And also, the radar rating was definitely necessary.
If this movie was PG-13, it would have sucked.
Oh, yeah, totally. Been a horrible movie. All right, now, since I spelled favorite correctly, I Googled it and everything. We move on to favorite moments.
Woohoo!
Okay.
All right. Since you asked me what I want to do, can I go first?
Yes, I told you to pick.
My favorite moment of this movie, I don't know if we're going to be agreeing or not, is my favorite moment, and the moment that's going to stick with me is the apartment scene.
And in which we are, before you get started, we are going to be talking, both of our favorite moments are things that we're having a full discussion about, like in detail.
Yeah.
So we're just going to very briefly mention why these were our favorite moments, because we're going to go into much more details once we get to that section of this.
Absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted
to
let people know.
But my favorite moment is the moment in the apartment when he kills. I forget their names.
I'll find out. You just keep talking.
Thank you. It's when Joker. I'm not for the remainder of the review. I'm not calling him unless we have to call him Arthur. I'm not calling him Arthur. When Joker kills the guy who gave him the gun, because the way, and we'll get to the performances when we get to it, but the way Joaquin just talks this way out before he kills him, like, yeah, man, thanks. I really appreciate you looking out for me. Stab. And then gut. And then he just drops. And hearing the wailing of the other guy in the corner is just haunting. And then Joker just sitting there, all hunched over. Huh?
Randall.
It's right after he killed Randall. And he's just sitting there, and you hear the little guy in the back just wailing because of what he's seeing. It's just, he's just sitting there and going, yeah, that was nice. And then you just add on to it when the guy's trying to unlock the door. He's like, Arthur, can you? And he opens the door and then just closes it right back like, nah, you're good. And then leaves. It just, it's Joker in a nutshell, man. It's just, thanks, man. I really appreciate you caring for me. I really, really do. Oh, you're on the ground. Oh, well. Just, yeah. That's mine.
So my favorite moment out of this movie, in which we have talked about before, I do disagree with you, but everybody has their own moment that really peaked for them. I personally didn't solidify this as a masterpiece in my mind up until the actual talk show. The whole movie is building to this moment, but I'm not going to talk. We'll go into more discussion. The reason why this is a solidified favorite moment of all time, will be thought about for many years to come, personally in my head, is because Joker has been depicted in several different lights. Sometimes really good, sometimes questionable at best. And that goes for both comics, animation, and movies in general. Any type of media Joker has been a part of. I've never truly seen Joker, the character, on screen that he was talking to Murray. Him talking to Murray, I got exact, oh my God, oh. I was smiling ear to ear. I was taking in every word as if it was my last breath, because it was so haunting. It was so beautiful, though he was squirming. And I think this plays ode to Batman.
The Killing Joke. Not the Killing Joke, Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns, where in that one it is alluded to the fact Joker could be homosexual. In that one, it's not a fully that's what he is, but it is definitely alluded to.
They allude to it very nicely.
Elements, and I think he even alluded to it in this movie. Hakeem did in his performance, which was even more revolutionary, because I definitely do agree with that somewhat, as well as there are some tendencies because of the relationship in between him and Batman. But that's a different conversation for a different day. That's my favorite moment.
It's the 10-minute scene where he's just talking is so good.
In which that, I think, is an excellent segue into into the next section we're going to talk about, which are these scenes. Since we have started talking about the scenes, I figured we could go into the scenes and we have other talking points as well. Is that good for you?
Good transition.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it worked out pretty nicely. I think because we are just talking about the talk show, we'll go back. We'll go to the talk show, and then we can go back to the apartment so I can tell you how I feel about it, if I think it was, how I feel, and then we'll go back to the train station and the importance of the train.
So right. I just, that 10 minutes, man, where he's just letting it out. And then he does the joke about the kid, and the way Murray goes, "That's not funny." He's like, "Yeah, it is. It's really funny." And if you realize in that scene, he's controlling his laugh. Like he's only laughing when he wants to. It's not because he needs to. It's only because he wants to. Because he's finally comfortable. He doesn't feel like he's not awkward in that moment. He is in control and he knows it. So therefore, his laugh is in control. Because I guarantee you, if that was Arthur, his laugh would be going everywhere. But in that moment, it's Joker, and he's in control of it. And I absolutely love that. It's just, and then when he looks up at Murray, he goes, "I hate you. You just brought me on here to make fun of me. You're exactly like everybody else." And then the final line of that moment. Do you want to hear a joke?
So I don't know. I think for this moment, I think there's a lot of elements that put into it. How Joker got his name, because that's what Murray called him, I think was just beautifully well done and original and organic, which I really, really like. Because sometimes that can play off really badly if the script wasn't written.
I wish we would have saw that in the trailer.
Huh?
I wish we would have saw that in the trailer. I think it would have made more of an impact if we didn't see it in the trailer.
Well, we don't actually know why he wants to be called Joker through the trailer.
I know
what he chooses. And so I think the impact is the reason why, because you called me a Joker. It's so subtle, it's so minute, but it's perfect.
Yeah.
And then I think the talk show, another good reason why, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on, but I think it plays into today's society and today's news. That's one of the last things we're going to be talking about is the news discussion of what's going on today with this particular movie. But I think this has a lot of sayings that I'm going to come back to when we're talking about that, of where they're walking over this movie. He is mentally, he's been abused since he was younger. And all this stuff gets brought up in this, 10-minute short span of he's going off and saying, well, these people that I killed, that I'm saying on air, I am the murderer. I'm the person who did all this. It was self-defense. I did it because, they were attacking me. And yet if I would have died, no one would have cared, which it's true. And I mean, it is true. And especially in that moment, especially in society, in today's society, like in our society and in Gotham, more so Gotham, I would say, everybody does kind of get a spotlight when they die in the world, but it's still not as big as if Donald Trump would die. If I would have died and Donald Trump died the same day, who's going to be covered? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same thing of where he was just a guy who no one really liked. He wasn't popular. He wasn't on Wall Street. And I think the line of, and you would just walk right over my body.
It was beautiful.
It's just so perfect. And it sums up, I think, this whole movie in general, what does this movie stand for? And I think the talk show really was that moment where I was like, yeah, this is a masterpiece, because it was every single domino fell into place right there, and you got to see it all splayed out in its beautiful glory, which is just brilliant, and it's perfect. And then when he shoots Murray, and like we talked about last night, but I'll mention again here, of how it is somewhat of a misdirect, because the whole conversation beforehand is, pow, I'm gonna kill myself. Pow, I'm gonna kill myself. And that's basically
or like when he's practicing on his couch and he's doing the knock joke and he does that.
Yeah, and and that's the whole time you're sitting there. I think me and Zachary both agreed that we both had a feeling that it wasn't going to be that, but you still have that thought in the back of your head that could be how the movie ends, because ultimately, just knowing how movies work, we were coming close to the end. I wasn't really sure how much further it was going to
Yeah.
go, and so I was like, maybe this is how it's going to end. Maybe it is, he dies, and that's why we can't move forward with this character, because it was just to start this revolution of, Gotham and clowns and different things like that. And then he shoots Murray, and he does kill himself, in an overarching arc.
He kills Arthur in that moment. He doesn't.
Yeah, Arthur is
He
dead.
kills himself
Exactly.
metaphorically in that moment.
By admitting to his crimes, then actually truly shooting, Murray, committing it live on television, cementing himself as the leader of, this place. I thought it was just beautifully well done.
Yeah.
Some of the best filmmaking I've seen this year.
And I was really worried. I was really worried when they shot Murray like it was going to be like over the top and crazy and zany, but it wasn't. It was just point blank done. Like it wasn't like overly done. It was beautifully shot.
And I think that's something we can talk about, overall as we continue to go through these. Is that I thought the violence, normally, especially in comic book movies, I would
It's
say
subtle.
They don't do it realistically. They always do the big splashes or something else like that. And these were like realistic. If you shoot someone in the head, yes, there's gonna be splatter, in the background, but it's also going to be really contained,
Yeah.
And normally in movies they try to make it such a big
bombastic thing.
Yeah, and even like when we talked about the apartment, it was still so condensed, which was so like realistic, which is like
especially in that scene, when he like stucks him in the neck and then gets him in the eye. If that was done in any other film, it would have gone everywhere.
Yeah, it was
right there. It was just like done.
Yeah,
he smashed his head on the wall. It could have gone everywhere, but it was just contained in that one spot. And I liked that. I was so worried it was going to go over the top when it came to the violence, but it didn't. It stayed realistic. It stayed condensed, and so that when it happened, you were more terrified of it. The train scene when we get to it, those 3 gunshots when he kills the guys, it's contained. It's right there.
It's very grounded, which makes it scarier.
Yes.
So I don't really have much else to say about the talk show. I think we have talked about. Do you have any other final?
I think De Niro shines more at the end of the movie than he does throughout the film, and his conversation back and forth between him and Joaquin is just
my only
perfect.
issue that I had, and it wasn't while I was watching the movie. It was after I've been sitting with it. I saw it on Tuesday. We're filming this on Sunday, so I've had a few.
I saw it last night.
I've had a few days to kind of sit with it, and that is the fact that I didn't really. De Niro did a great job, in which we'll get into more like the performance when we get to the performances of the movie. But I do believe I never once believed him as an actual talk show host.
I agree. I like his movements, like how he was acting like the host. But to me, those movements felt kind of forced. Like De Niro really didn't want to do it, and the dialogue for me fit most with him during that talk between him and Joaquin.
And then also, especially with talking about the talk show, I think there's something more to say, and I think it even says something about the movie, is shooting Robert De Niro in the face rather than shooting somebody who else would probably be fitter for the talk show. Like if they would have got somebody who would more like you would believe, okay, that's a talk show host. I think there's something else, like seeing Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
I think makes a bigger impact, which also plays on its own commentary, being a little meta towards the movie because we care more because we know the actor. You know what I mean? And I think.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think De Niro signed on for that scene alone? Probably.
I would. I mean, if I would have got the script and they're like, read this, and I would have read it, I'd be like, yeah, okay, here we go. I
guarantee you he read the script and went, the rest of the movie, I'm not even really in it, but the scene I'm in is going to be the scene everybody talks about, and he's completely right.
And then also, I feel like, De Niro, which we'll get to like in performances, every moment that he had were building blocks.
Yeah, to that moment.
And so it was very important to the beats, and so he was so very important, even if he was like an outside player, which will get into another group of characters that were also outside players, but were very integral to the actual story. All right, moving on to the apartment scene.
We'll do the apartment or train next.
We'll go ahead and do the apartment. We have yet to talk about the train, and so I'm just going to leave it to freshness. These two we mentioned, so they're not going to go by like as.
So I've talked about why I like the apartment scene. Why didn't you What was your issue with it?
I never had an issue with it. Honestly, I thought it was quite shocking.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere when it happened.
Even though I knew because of other reasons, like certain things they get spoiled for me. I knew that something happened in the apartment. I didn't know what happened or whatever. But I did know through an article that, oh, this is what's gonna, kind of go down or whatever.
To me, I knew something was going to happen when Joker locked the door. I knew something was going to happen.
It wasn't. See, that's interesting because the moment that happened with me, cigarette, which smoking is an interesting conversation in itself for this movie, but he was smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And he drew the smiley face with the ashes on the wall. That was the moment that I knew something bad was going to happen.
I didn't see that.
When you watch it again on Wednesday, pay attention not to him, but to what he's doing. While they're talking, he is drawing. He drew a smiley face with, like he was burning his wall with his cigarette. He drew a smiley face.
Okay.
And that was the moment that I knew somebody was going to die.
Okay.
Didn't know why.
For the tip.
Didn't know how, but I knew somebody was not going to make it out. I also, I don't know, and I think that has something to say when we get to the therapist later on. Every person that dies, except for one character, like I said, we'll get to, towards the end of the conversation, has a reason. You know, Randall, he betrayed him. He set him up to fail. He wanted him gone. He gave him the gun. Like, this whole thing was put in motion, because of this one character. And so when he died and he spared
it made sense.
The little guy, it made sense. It was completely understandable. It was still very intense because you didn't know if he was going to spare the other guy or not.
Yeah.
You were hoping, you're like, is he, but there was still that moment, and there was another misdirect, and then another misdirect, and you're just like, what is going to happen? So it's very edge of your seat. And then when he killed Murray, very, very necessary death.
It was, in a weird way, Randall and Murray's death felt earned.
And then, once again, and which we're going to talk about later on as well, when he kills his mom, which I still think ties into the apartment, I think is also, these are all characters that have wronged him in a way before,
Yeah.
And then that's why I think the last one, the therapist at the very end of the movie is so shocking because she never really did anything wrong.
I have something about that when we get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought of, and because we talked about it last night when I got home, I think I know why he did it.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I think that's a theory, all these, different things. We don't really know why. And I think
some people think he just hurt her. Some people don't even think he killed her.
No,
I know the blood on the feet made me know that he killed her.
Yeah. But back to the apartment. Sorry to go off on, but I think that's very important. That when he does kill Randall, while I was watching the movie, I was never like truly impacted. I was never like, oh, he died. Okay, that's kind of sad. I mean, kind of also deserved it because he was an asshole.
Yeah,
no one deserves to die, and that's even a commentary inside this movie in itself.
Yeah,
but out of all the characters, I would have been much more petrified if the other guy died. You know what I mean? With Randall dying, he was an asshole, and he was a nice guy who turned into an asshole, and he had to pay for those. He had to pay, for the price, in a very interesting and cool way. And the way it happened so fast, and that's one thing I described to you before you went and saw the movie, or to you or
it was so quick.
Is that the scenes of violence? They're not long. They're not prolonged. Whereas I watch
short to the point.
Yeah, I watch certain movies, horror films and stuff, and they Three from Hell, which is so interesting. No one has really talked about in the media, especially because it deals with some of the same things of this horrendous guy doing these horrendous acts, these people or whatever, and those are long, drawn out scenes that go on for a long time. Where these are quick, they're not like quickly edited. I think they're edited very nicely. But the scenes themselves are like done,
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something more to say about that. You didn't need to glorify it like we talked about before.
Yeah.
It needed to be subtle, and it needed to keep in that containment. But it was also both disturbing, even with being fast.
To me, the apartment scene works the most because of the wailing in the background from what's the little guy's name? I don't want
I'm pretty sure Gary.
to Gary.
Maybe.
Hearing Gary's wailing in the background after he killed Randall, if it was quiet in there, I don't think the scene would have worked as well for me. But the fact that I can hear Gary in the background just screaming in distress, like, I'm next. I'm fucking next. He's gonna do it. And then when Joker opens the door. Okay, but first off, I want to talk about this. So after he kills Randall and he tells Gary to go, Gary can't reach the lock because he's a shorter person. I didn't laugh at that in my viewing because I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think the scene was, for me, was not supposed to be funny. He's scared, so he's trying to talk to the killer, that way he can go. But then Joker made a joke and made it funny, so that when Gary left, it went. Up to that point, I wasn't laughing though. I didn't think that with him reaching to the door wasn't funny. That was him reaching for his life.
And which again, I think is why some people did laugh at it. It is a joke, in a way. Him scrambling to do it, not really knowing. One, some people laugh contagiously when they get scared like that. This person who was truly innocent didn't really do anything wrong. Also, one could say it's somewhat similar to the way Arthur felt isolated and things like that, in the treatment of work and other things, and so they were very similar characters. And so when he goes and reaches for that door, a reaction could just be, oh, I'm going to laugh. Not because I'm trying to do it because I'm trying to do it out of meanness, but just simply because that's my reaction. I don't really know how else to react
to do it
to the scene. It also could be done is that people just thought it was, very comedic for him not being able to reach the door, which I think is wrong in a way.
Yeah.
But I also believe that's how it was shot, and it was supposed to drag out that moment, because I think it was supposed to put you on that line of, should I laugh? Is this supposed to be a comedy scene? Is this supposed to be comedic or not? And I think the movie played really well with that. I will be right back. I'm going to put you directly on screen. It's just going to be you. I have to go get my charger for my laptop. So you can talk about, do you want to go ahead and do you have anything else to say about the apartment, or do we go ahead and switch it over to the train?
Just go ahead and switch over to the train.
All right. You can start the conversation. I'll be right back.
All right. So while he's getting his charger, so the train scene that we're talking about, it's shown in the trailer. It's when this one I'm going to call him Arthur because at this point he's Arthur still. Arthur is, so in the film, Joker has this, we think it's a disease where he can't stop laughing, and I love how they integrate that in the film. And in this moment, these three gentlemen walk onto the subway that Arthur is on, and there's a lady there, and they're trying to offer her a French fry. I'm like, oh, that's just whatever, be nice, whatever. And she says no. But then you realize that these three guys want to do more than that. And when she says no, and they're trying to get her laugh or whatever, Arthur starts laughing hysterically, and he can't stop. And they don't realize that it's a problem that he has, and so the lady leaves, and they start going after him. And this is the moment where he commits his first murder. And like we've been talking about with the apartment scene. Oh, hi. So like we were talking about with the apartment scene, when Arthur commits the three murders, it is quick. I wasn't expecting it at all when it happened, because they were just beating him up, and I completely forgot Arthur had the gun. I thought it was at his apartment, and so I was like, oh, I guess we're going to have to go watch Beat Up again. That's great, because it sucked first time watching him get beat up. But no, all of a sudden you see the shot go off and the hole go through this guy's head, and he just falls. And then Arthur shoots the other guy, the second guy in the back, and then he falls and he goes down. And he shoots the second guy twice, doesn't he? Or the third guy shoots twice. So he shot the second guy twice.
He shoots 3 times.
And now we're going to get to my favorite shot of the film, not moment, shot of the movie, and no pun intended. And after the third guy, and I love this moment where they're both waiting for the train to stop, and they're going back and forth to see who's going to get off first. And we get the most mesmerizing shot I've ever seen with the music behind him. Arthur just walking like this towards the guy to shoot him. The anger in his face, the smile on his face when he's walking towards the guy. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. I was really uncomfortable when he was going after the guy because the guy was just crawling to the stairs and it was just boom, boom. And it leads to the best scene in the trailers is after that moment is when he goes to the bathroom and just starts dancing and reveling in what he did and has that great shot of him just going like, yeah. So good. The first deaths in this movie are perfect. The way they shot it, the way they edited it, the way the laughter melts into the scene. That's me with the train. By the way, it's not part of our notes. I love how they used the laugh in this movie. That is all. The laugh is awesome in this film. The way they integrated it was beautiful. Go.
Yeah, it's not something we have written down in particular, but I do like how it is like a disease.
We don't know if it's a disease now.
Well, that's what they say, and then I don't know. I personally,
do you think
I think
it's
it's because of the abuse, in which we'll get to when we talk about his mom. But I do think it's because of the abuse and that he was abused so much that when he gets anxious and he doesn't know what to do, he just starts to laugh uncontrollably.
Okay.
Like some people shake, some people get really uncomfortable when they can't breathe. I think his thing is that he just laughs, and it's set in the 80s. And so, it wasn't really diagnosed back then of being anxiety.
Carried on a card.
Yeah, and anxiety and different things like that and how to handle it. And so I think it was just simply he was in Arkham, for a long period of time before we get to meet him, which is mentioned at the very beginning of the movie, and I think at that period is when they diagnose him with this, because there are probably moments in Arkham where he just couldn't stop laughing. Not because he wanted to, but because his body could not. And I think that's what it plays into. I don't really think it's like an illness or anything. I think it's like a evolutionary thing.
Yeah, I got you. So you with the train, how do you feel?
I was pretty freaking delighted. Okay,
so
with the train sequence. It comes right after the moment he gets fired, which I think is perfect for plot and structure. Structure is a very big thing to me. If you don't have structure right, your whole project
doesn't work.
And I think the structure here is just beautifully well crafted. So, good for the movie. Good for what is his name?
Todd Phillips.
Todd Phillips. Thank you.
By the way, if no one knows who Todd Phillips is, he directed the Hangover trilogy.
No, he directed Hangover.
No, he directed all three.
He didn't direct all three.
I thought he did 1 and 2.
He might have done the first two. I know he didn't do the third one.
But he directed Hangover 1 and 2, and then he did the movie War Dogs.
Yes, War Dogs is the one you should be thinking of when you think of.
But the fact that he directed those and then did this, I want to see where he goes next. That's all. Okay, so
he's a very prolific producer.
Yeah,
he produced several other movies. Oh no, he did direct all three Hangovers.
Yeah,
correct. He directed The Hangovers. He directed Due Date, which was an okay movie.
I really like Due Date.
War Dogs, which was very good.
Fantastic movie.
He also produced A Star Is Born last year, which I didn't know. So he does have some moments of talent in there. Some. This being one of his shining moments. But with the train sequence, I think it came perfect. And then with him getting beaten up, one, I also really, really like how the girl reacts to it in the scene. How, she reacted it in two different ways. Of one, he didn't get up to protect her or try to save her, because obviously I was wondering when I was watching the movie, how far is this going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody, when I saw it before I saw it, said everything crossed the line. There were so many moments in this movie that
this could have easily been one of those moments that could have crossed the line.
And so I was curious while I was watching it. This was that moment that everybody's like, "Oh, it went too far," and I could agree if it did go that far, but it didn't, which I did enjoy as well. How they knew where they held back. They could have went further, and I would also have been really curious to see Arthur's reaction to it. And so there's also a part of me who almost wishes that it would have went that far or started to go somewhere, just so I could see it a different
You
way.
think he would have laughed at it?
I think he wouldn't be able to. And once again, he's uncomfortable. I don't actually think he's trying to laugh at things. I think it's just uncomfortability.
For
And
him?
he would be extremely uncomfortable, just like the French fries and different things.
Yeah.
Like, because part of me, I could see in his face, he wanted to tell them to stop. He couldn't. He physically couldn't speak.
No.
You know, because he's
That's
laughing.
why I love the laugh in this movie. It's not because he's thinking that it's funny. It's just he can't stop.
Yeah, he's
And that's why. Oh man, we should have put that moment in here too.
Which one?
His stand-up moment. The stand-up.
I agree, but I also I don't know. We could talk about when we talk about Joaquin in general.
Yeah, because that moment with the stand-up thing.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't really think about it because there's so many good moments in the movie that
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Anyway, back to the train.
Back to it, and then her leaving him there defenseless, almost, but also getting away. So he did protect her
In a way
as well. And in her face, I could almost see thank you, but also this is weird, I'm leaving type of thing. It was like a mixture of both, which I really liked. And then going into him getting, oh, you think this is funny, then getting beaten. And then I was like, the dude just got shot in the head. What? When it happened,
so unexpected. Like they're just beating him up, and then all of a sudden, floor.
Which it is really funny as well, or it's not funny. It's very interesting and very well done, but it goes back to that moment with Randall, this is to protect you. And he did. But also then I think about the kids' hospital and what happened if the gun actually would have went off in the hospital. It was loaded.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Such a good moment though. Not really here to talk about, but
the hospital moments, honestly, to me, is one of the funniest moments in the movie because
yeah,
when he just goes and you're just like, nope, nothing happened. Nope.
But yeah, I don't know. And then also I like the tracking shot. I thought the tracking shot was really well done as well. I thought it was very clever how he went through the train station with him and different things. I also really, really loved it was that moment, and I think it was a spark of Joker, where he shot him. He knew the guy was dead on the stairs, but he didn't. He shot him 2 more times.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure. Which I would say there's something menacing about it. To the point of where it was self-defense with the first one. It was self-defense with the second one.
But the third one was for him.
But the third one, he was angry and he wanted to take it out. And it could also be, oh, I don't want to get caught, which you can fight that. You can make an argument about that. But that's why you could have shot him once, and really tried. Or maybe he could have made sure he was dead. But those extra shots, those were for Arthur. Those were I did this. I'm proud of this. And then it goes into that very interestingly haunting moment in which I think Arthur has several of those where you're just like, what is going on screen? This is weird.
Every time he danced, it was really eerie and creepy. Because when he's dancing, he's in a really good mood. And I think he got that from Murray. Because you remember Murray's always dancing when he's walking around. I think he got that from him.
Well, I think that was just him studying comedy shows. I think it was just one way that he could control, himself. And I think through dance he could calm himself down.
So do you think to him at that moment he thought the shooting was a stand-up bit? It was a joke?
Well, I think going back to his laugh and the uncomfortableness that he felt, I think at that moment he felt free. I think after he shot the 3 people and he wasn't put under, he wasn't getting beaten up anymore. He fought.
He wasn't stressed.
He wasn't stressed. I thought, I think it was a proud moment where he felt completely, utterly free. And then it goes into the next moment, which we can talk about, which we're going to sum up very fastly, but it's going to, quietly play it out. But the Zazie Beetz plot twist, because it goes directly into the moment where he goes and kisses her.
Yeah.
Right afterwards, starting with Fred and
because
back on us.
I'm going to be honest. Before the plot twist happened, I hated the fact that he went and decided to go have sex with this random woman he's only talked to twice. Mm-hmm. I'm like, he just killed these 3 guys. Feels great about it, and because he got aroused obviously from what he did, and so now he wants to go
Well, I
screw
mean,
this
I
girl. I'm
think,
like,
which
it
I
made no
think,
sense, but then it does.
I think it's really interesting. And I think this is one of those plot twists that I think both people can argue that one, somebody could have saw it coming from a mile away,
Yeah.
and two, someone like us really found it somewhat shocking. I mean,
Yeah.
when it happened, as soon as he walked into the apartment, I knew. Like it wasn't like you knew when he said something, when she said something.
Yeah.
It was me when he walked into the apartment, and that's only because of how she reacted to moments before. Like I couldn't actually see her actually opening the door and then kissing and then falling
Yeah.
into each other. And it wasn't until that moment that it triggered that I was like, oh yeah, this totally doesn't seem like it was actually working.
Right.
And but it was still very well done and very clever. I also really liked the fact that it wasn't his girlfriend, that she
Yeah.
was just somebody in his mind. I think it really helps.
And what he's talking about with me is that the moment I knew that Zazie wasn't real was when she came out and she asked, is there anyone I can call for you? Is your mom home? Because if you remember the earlier scene before that, she's at the hospital with him. If she was real, she would know that she would have known that she was in the hospital. And that was for me. I went, holy shit, she's not real. This entire time she's been fake.
She is real, but in
But
her,
she's not been at those moments.
those moments,
She wasn't at the stand-up bit. She wasn't at the hospital.
she wasn't in the diner. She
They
wasn't.
didn't have sex. Which made me think a little bit. So did he ever get his coffee at the hospital? Because she asked if he wanted coffee.
He never did. He never got that coffee.
He never got that coffee.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it was an excellent thing. Also, I really liked how it took away from the film, where it was another one of those calmer moments of where it really developed.
Yeah.
It wasn't
And
much.
that's also where they brought back the shooting of the head thing. I loved how he did that. He just turned around and went, and because to him, they had that moment together in the elevator, sort of. But in that moment, she was like, "Oh,
Well, I mean, also, when you think back to that moment, was that moment real?
yeah."
You know,
Was any moment with her real? Like,
yeah. Could she, or could it have been like everybody else reacts to Arthur? Could she have been scared, and we just saw what he wanted us to see?
because I thought about it earlier today. The moment where he goes into the apartment and has that conversation with her, was she even real then?
Oh no, yeah, I agree. She was real then, but I mean, like, I wonder what scenes of the movie, because they did throw in this thing, and it's only because they did put this plot twists in. How many of these scenes did we see under Arthur's eyes? Was the scene in the elevator where they're talking and they're having a okay moment or whatever? Was he actually normal? Did they seem normal together, or was she scared? And the
Yeah.
scene where she, pulls the trigger, did that actually happen, or was that a moment that he made up in his head?
Yeah.
All these different little things, and there's other moments later on in the movie.
Yeah.
So
The Wayne.
lens.
Okay. So when Thomas Wayne is first introduced in this film, I thought it was really clever. I thought it was interesting, and I know who Thomas Wayne is. I want to get the guy who plays Thomas Wayne right. Like, what's the guy's name? I want to give him full credit for this because he does just stuff. I'm so glad it was not Alec Baldwin.
Brett Cullen.
Thank you. Brent Cullen in this movie gives the most realistic interpretation of Thomas Wayne I've seen. And that also makes me kind of upset because whenever we've seen Thomas in the movies and the comics or whatever, he's a genuinely good guy. He cares about the city. And in some way or shape or form in this film, he does care about Gotham. But he only cares about the upper echelon.
The 1%.
The 1% of Gotham. He talks about that he cares about the other 99%, but in reality, he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He's only doing that to get his way in the votes, which again is a smart play to get to run for the mayor. And so the plot twist he's talking about threw me off for about 20 minutes. And so from the time he went to go visit Bruce all the way up to the bathroom scene with Thomas itself, in that span, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But then we got the scene at Arkham, so it made more sense to me of like why it happened, and Thomas was actually telling the truth and not lying to him.
See, okay, this is very interesting.
And
Go ahead
so,
and tell them what the plot twist is, and I'll tell you my opinion.
So the plot twist is that Bruce and Arthur are half brothers.
Yes, half
I
brother.
don't know if it's real or not, though, because in the film he says they're half brothers, like that they're related. But if what Thomas says is true and what the Arkham papers state is true, then they're not half brothers at all. They're not even mutually related at all.
See, here
and for the 20 minutes that I thought they were actually half brothers, I'm like, oh no, this could go off really weird. And so then Arthur has that moment with Bruce, which I thought was just absolutely perfect. Him reacting the way he does. And by the way, this is when we get a surprise cameo from Alfred Pennyworth for some reason, which, not going to lie to you, the Alfred didn't like him. He was iffy. I was like, that could have been anybody else. I don't know why it had to be Alfred. But the fact we got Alfred in this movie, though, is cool. They have an Alfred set up now that can go on with the Batman if they want to. Cool. But back to my point. So we have that moment. And so then Arthur runs away. And then realizes that Thomas is going to be at this benefit, sneaks in, has a great moment in the theater, laughing at the movie with everybody.
Which, hold on, because we're going over this quite quickly. The theater moment I really, really liked. And I only say this because of the fact we got to see how the 1% is.
Yeah.
You know? And it's the only moment in the movie where we truly get to see what the 1% is actually like when they're in the movie theater. And the costume he chooses and different things was really Joker-esque. You know, it really felt like that's something the Joker would wear. You know, he would choose that or whatever.
Yeah.
But with this in particular, I really liked how we got to see a glimpse of it.
Yeah.
You know, like this is what we normally would get to see if we were following a Bruce Wayne story.
Yeah.
Was these, big events, these parties. And because we were on the outside, we actually got to see Gotham, real Gotham, which I really liked the difference between the two. I thought it was really nice.
And so then from there, we get to where Arthur has his confrontation with Thomas. And this is, I think, the prelude to the talk show scene, because this is Arthur's first real blowout moment where he finally just lets it loose and, has his rant. And then he starts laughing. And this is from the trailer when Thomas asks him, "You think this is funny?" And he punches him in the face. And I'm like, so they're not related then?
So,
and then we go to Arkham and we get the whole papers thing. So now I don't think they're related. I don't think they're related at all.
Interesting enough. There's also one other thing we'll talk about the Waynes a little bit later, because it was a Batman-related thing. But with this, I do believe they're related. And I'm only saying...
Explain.
So I don't have concrete evidence. The evidence is set up to believe that they're not. That his mom is crazy and that, he was abused and he was adopted. That's what Arthur supposedly is adopted. I still truly kind of believe it was a cover-up. I do believe that she was sent in asylum. She was taken away because of the
thing. Do you think Thomas set up the paperwork?
But I believe Thomas set up the paperwork that he was adopted. I do believe she was right in a way. And it was just because of how strong she felt and the way he reacted so aggressively towards it, and how everybody knew. Like, his whole staff, Alfred.
Even Alfred knew.
Alfred was like, oh, you're that person, and she was sending letters, and so maybe that's the reason why. And someone could argue that, just like I'm arguing, a point. Someone else could argue that it could be the fact that everybody was sending letters and they always knew that she's a little, bonkers in the head.
Yeah.
But with how old he is, and
it would make sense
when she got fired and she got sent away. And I still believe that he was abused by her boyfriend and, walked up to the radio.
So do you think Arthur was born in the insanity ward?
No, I believe Arthur was born while she still worked underneath the Waynes. Kind of like the governor with, what is his name? Arnold Schwarzenegger. How he had sex with a maid. She actually got pregnant from it, gave birth without anybody knowing. Then it came out, publicly or whatever. But with this, it didn't ever come out because they covered it up. And then it worked in their favor again because she went to the asylum because, she was a pretty nutty person.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling, I just get this feeling. It's just a feeling that I got while I watched the movie that I think all these horrible things happened to her and to Arthur because of him, because he sent them away and said, "No, you're trash." Basically, I don't, we don't.
You weren't the 1%.
Yeah, like you're the help, you deserve to be on the street. And so that was just my takeaway. And then there's a scene, the bathroom.
I like that very much. That's
There's a
intriguing.
bathroom, right? And makes it, yeah. And then the bathroom scene, and then there's another scene, I can't think of what it was, that also made me feel like, okay, this is it. I can't think of what it was though. There's another one later on after it that I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then just the way his mother reacted to the whole thing, in general, it just made me believe. And
because throughout the film they set up that Penny loved Thomas throughout the entire movie. Every time they mentioned Thomas, she was like, "He's a great man. He's going to do right by us." And I'm like,
and then
why does she like him so much?
Then also, I also kind of believe it because how Bruce reacted. Bruce wasn't scared.
No,
Bruce wasn't.
He looked comfortable.
Uncomfortable. He was fine. Like he was seeing someone who he knew, and so also.
Do you think Bruce knew?
No. It just like more like felt like a brotherly bond of like when you see a relative that you haven't seen in a very long time, or you don't know a relative, and you get that feeling inside. You're like, do I know you? Are we related? Type of thing.
As close as we get to a Batman Joker confrontation in this film, it was really well done.
And I also really liked the dynamic. Because they can't do the whole "I'm in love with you" dynamic. I just don't think it will work with this. I do love the dynamic, and there's plenty of comics out there you can find of where it is through kind of like compassion. There's also
I always recommend if you guys want to look at like that kind of angle between Batman and Joker, go watch the Lego Batman movie because the way they delve deeply into that relationship between the two of them is perfect. But for this film, for the brotherly thing,
I think works out really nicely.
When you think about it that way, like you described it, when Arthur makes the smile on Bruce's face, he genuinely means for Bruce to have a smile because he wants him to be happy. So I get that. That actually, you might have convinced me to switch around though a little bit. I actually really like that because it would make sense of why. Because Thomas had the money and power to switch up the files, saying that he was adopted, saying it wasn't true.
But I still believe that there is a lot of it that is true. I believe the adoption is the only thing that they mess with. And just like she said, she's like, no, they told me that, they made me sign papers that you were adopted. And they told her that was NDA papers.
Yeah.
No one ever had to know.
Non-disclosure.
Yeah, that's what NDA means. Sorry, guys. But she didn't even have to know that maybe she wasn't signing non-disclosure papers. Maybe she was finding my name on an adoption paper, and she had no idea. And then it went on file. They could have tricked her into it. How many people has he tricked into this? There's so many bigger questions that we might not ever get to know the answers to. But
no. But that was honestly my biggest problem with Thomas throughout the film, and that's why the actor did such a good job. Thomas Wayne is a prick in this movie.
And I do believe, and I agree with you. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're fine.
I do agree with you. If anybody else played this role, like Alec Baldwin in particular,
it would have been
bad.
It would have been bad. It would have felt forced, especially with Alec. It would have felt really forced and then like trying to be mean all the time. But the way that the guy did it.
Because it is like a Trump-like character, and there's a lot of similarities between the two. I do strongly agree. I strongly believe the actor, he brought such a nuance to the role, which could have been taken a completely different way, that I think it definitely shows and it definitely plays well.
He's my favorite Thomas I've seen on film. He's my favorite Thomas Wayne I've seen on film.
And then also, speaking of the Waynes, I'm going to introduce the scene. You can tell me how you felt about it, because we had mixed reactions and stuff to it. So you can let me know if that's changed or not, or if you still feel the same way.
No, it's still the same. Unless we find out that we're doing something else with this character, then I feel like it wasn't necessary to show. Well, for story purposes, it was understandable for them to do the scene, but to show it twice, I think was a little too much.
So the scene that we're talking about is, we have to go backwards a little. And one of the first things we see Thomas in, and they're talking about the movement, he calls the people of the 99% they're clowns because they can't make it to the 1%, basically.
Mhm.
And so it basically stampedes this big movement. It was between Arthur and Thomas, which combines father and son. Just so many other parallels. Like, it's just like, how can we not believe it? Either way,
You had fun with that, didn't you?
I did. There's a lot. I've had a long time to theorize this movie, Zachary. So you gave me a lot of time to think. But either way, and so they do mention it, and so we jump ahead, and this is the night of the talk show, and they go see their famous play. It's famous from the comics, it's the play that we all know happens.
Were they seeing a movie version or the play version of Marco Zorro? I think they were at the movie theater seeing the Marco
It was
Zorro.
like a movie version. They probably updated a little, to make it, but it's still the same thing. It's still
it's Thomas, Martha, and Bruce seeing the Marco Zorro, and they leave because Bruce got scared of the movie, and that's why they left.
And they leave, and outside is the movement that is going on. So we hear like rumors and stuff that.
Huh?
Is that up?
No, it was me. I'm scooching around.
I don't want to say spoilers or anything.
Yeah.
See it on Wednesday. But and then he gets followed, and I love the line the clown says when they shoot him. But I also truly enjoy the fact that is it Zelda? Is that the mom's name? What is the mom's name?
Martha.
Martha. I knew that. How did I not know that? My gosh.
Jacob. Oh my God. For how much crap BVS got for that name, you think you would remember the name Martha.
I didn't. But I absolutely love we're gonna move on.
That's funny.
Martha, she doesn't have a speaking line at all.
She just got shot.
And it was because she was with him that she got shot. Not because, I want to kill her too. It's because just her being associated with Thomas, it made her die. Which I think says a lot about, there's so many different layers to that. And I loved it. And I didn't.
But it makes me wonder, why didn't he kill Bruce?
See, no one, it's because they have to set up Batman, I'm assuming. Like, let's get real here.
Well, to me, and that was my problem with the scene. And maybe
to look at parents. We can blame the parents, but we can't blame the child.
Well, to me, and that was my biggest problem with it, is that if this is supposed to be an Elseworlds film, and we were supposed to see this version of Joker again, I would have taken that chance and drawn over the line and killed Bruce. I would have done it. I think it would have set the tone for the film as being a standalone film about Joker winning, about how he won the fight against Thomas, including the one against the future Batman. He won that fight.
I don't know. I really liked how they did it. I personally quite enjoyed it, and I really liked this scene in particular. I thought it was very clever.
It was the first time that the deaths happened in fast motion.
That is true. It was really weird. They weren't drawn out. But the pearls still went everywhere.
No, we've always seen it in slow motion. It actually went at a good pace.
It's weird. It's like the first time I've ever seen it.
It was really weird.
In a slow motion.
I was like, wow, man, their death is really quick.
But I think that right there is a good reflection. It's not based off of Bruce. This is an Arthur movie. And so it would be fast, because we're not supposed to draw on it. We're supposed to think about it, but we're not supposed to draw on it. And I don't know. I really liked it for multiple reasons. But I enjoyed how, if they are brothers, Arthur
sets it up really well.
Had some way of creating Batman, his mortal enemy, his brother, because of it.
It makes good tension between the two of them. It makes really good tension between the two of them.
So that's I really liked it. I thought they did a really good job. I don't really mind them going back, but I also think that plays a parallel. And I think going back to that, because we haven't really been able to figure it out, maybe it is supposed to show, maybe it's supposed to be like an overlying feeling of like, it's showing the two brothers, or maybe it's setting up the mortal enemies of like, he's always going to remember the clown that killed his parents, and he's always going to blame Joker.
Well, for me, it's the line that Arthur says at the end of the film when he's talking to the therapist.
Speaking of therapists, which we can go directly into,
it's the last conversation he has with this therapist, and he's laughing hysterically, and she's like, "What's so funny?" He's like, it's a joke that's on my mind. And she's like, "Why don't you tell me it? You wouldn't get it." And as soon as he says that, it goes to Bruce. So I'm thinking that Joker thinks Bruce is a joke now because he doesn't have the power anymore. That's what I think of that line, is that he thinks that the Waynes are a joke. They're no longer existing, so therefore they no longer are worthy of a joke. I think that's kind of telling. But no, I wanted to bring the therapist conversations into this topic because of three reasons. It starts the film, it's the midway point of the film, and it's the end of the film. They bookmark each segment of the movie. They bookmarks, the time at the beginning of the film we see Arthur as a meek, not really one talking, constantly laughing kid, to the second one where he has the conversation like, "You never listen, do you? You always ask me the same questions. How's your job? You have any negative thoughts?" And he says one of my favorite lines of the film: "All I have are negative thoughts." And so that's from when he starts the descent. And then we have the conversation between Joker and the therapist, and that leads into the ambiguous ending of like, did he kill her or not?
Is controversial at best, supposedly. From many articles that I've read, people are very mixed on how they end this film. I think deservedly so, though.
I don't think we needed the song at the end of the movie where when we see him walking around. I wish it would have been kind of quiet and we could have just heard his footsteps going across the.
I don't know. I think about the song that you're talking about. Now I know. I don't know. I liked it, and once again, this plays in his mind. Maybe he's dancing and then he runs away, and like I said,
That's another good thing. Like we talked about with Zazie, is this all in his head?
Well, no, I mean, I think the song could be like playing in his head.
Oh, okay.
We are in his head. He's because when he walks out of there, he's kind of doing it like, I'm feeling myself, and the guards chase him and different things, and brings in the scene, which I really liked. But okay, the first therapist I really fell for. I also very important.
They're all the same, Jake.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No. Therapist is not the same as the first. I looked it up. They're not the same therapist. It's played by a different actress.
Oh.
Yeah, right? Did not know that. And I think that plays on like the thoughts and different things. If I'm not mistaken, they're not played by the same. I'll double check though. Just
I swear that every scene it was the same one.
So we have the social worker.
Yeah, which is the one that gives him his meds.
Which with them disputing, he didn't get his meds. This was part of the reason why he kept becoming crazier and crazier, because he didn't have his meds to take anymore, and so he couldn't keep sane.
And whose fault was that? Thomas.
There's a lot of people in this movie. If anybody was curious, it's a list.
But it's like I said, the reason Arthur couldn't get his meds was because Thomas took away funding for the social working. And I'm like, wow. Just wow.
Yeah, right here. Yep, Arkham. Yeah, it's played by different Arkham psychiatrists. Played by two different people.
Let me ask you a question. In that scene, if that was for some odd reason and they decided to throw this in there randomly, if that was Harleen, how would you have felt?
I would not have liked it.
Do you think that would have been pushing it?
Yeah, I would not have liked it. But I think the first therapist that he has is interesting. I also do, I like how he talks about, like you said, you keep asking me, you never listen. These are pointless, times. I'm simply here to get more meds.
Yeah. He gets to the point. He just wants the medicine.
The last one, which is how the movie ends, we never get to know the character. And I think we both have a different opinion on this. I don't ever think it crossed the line. I think it's a very Joker movie, which we talked about, and we're going to talk about it again here. But I do understand what people do believe that it did cross the line because of the fact everybody else who died, that he was a part of who died. I'm sure there's other people who died because it was a movement,
Yeah.
Started. But for the people that we saw him personally kill, they all had a reason.
Yeah, whereas this lady
This it was just done because he wanted to do it.
now, for me, I don't have a problem with it. My thing is that I think people are not understanding what it meant. It meant that he doesn't care. Everything to him now is one giant joke, whether it be a conversation or a person. As long as there's a punchline at the end of it, he doesn't care. And to
And
him, that entire conversation about the joke was like you wouldn't get it, and that's why he probably ended up killing her, was because she wouldn't get the joke, and that was the joke of it.
and then a few other people also, you know, an article that I read said that they were fine with the fact the therapist died, or that we alluded to the therapist dying,
Dying.
but they didn't like exactly what you said, the upbeat pop, the upbeat song.
That
And
was
then
my issue with the song. It was very upbeat. If the song was more somber and monotone, I think it would have fit better.
the
But the
up,
fact that the song was so upbeat, that's
and
what I didn't
then
like.
and then also with the beautiful the end, symbol, it's almost made it seem like, it wasn't bad. What he did wasn't bad. Let's go have a party after killing someone, And so
Yeah.
some people had problems with that. And so I do wonder in a way, shape, or form, if that, like you said, if the song was different, they chose something a little bit sadder and they didn't have, the end and
And
ended, abruptly or something. I'm not really sure. I didn't have any problems with it, personally. I thought it worked really well. I really liked it. I thought it was weird, but I also
yes,
enjoyed the weirdness of it.
of of the entire film, the final shot in the therapist room is the weirdest moment in the entire movie.
I think Arthur has a lot of those.
No, but like genuinely weird. I think that was the one because it was all in just a white room. It felt like a different film just for a second for me.
And I don't. It's also really interesting. I think Grace brought up a great point beyond show. We talk about her quite on constantly here, but when her spoiler review, which I'll link down below since we mentioned it,
I haven't
um,
watched it. I need to watch it.
she mentions how she doesn't believe it's Arkham that he's at because it is so polished, it is so clean.
So, do you think maybe Bell Rev?
I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I think that's also something interesting to think about. If not right now, at some point, to
It'd
think.
be really yeah, because when you think about it, that's true. Because when you went to the Arkham State Hospital, it wasn't that pristine.
Yeah, exactly. And so it is very interesting. And this is also the Arkham State Hospital. We don't know if there's a different wing for the mental place.
Well,
If he got put with
I
the mental, or is this actual Arkham, like the
well,
jail?
I think the other thing people forget is that when we go to the final therapist session, it's in the future. Like we don't know
Yeah,
how
it
far
is.
in the future that it is. For all we know, Bruce could be older now.
Exactly.
And so we don't know if like if he is at Arkham, but they fixed Arkham since the time that he got there. We don't know, which I
So
found very. I don't know why that's so on this subject. Why do you think they did a time jump from the end of the film to the time jump? Why do you think they did it?
I have theories. I don't want to talk about in this video because I have too much theories to talk about, and I personally feel like it should be a different conversation. So we're going to move on to performances. I do have a theory though, but my theory is very long, so we're going to move on. Okay?
Can I ask, just for some reasons, do you think they pushed it forward in time with him looking like he does so that he can fight Batman?
Theories.
So do you want to save Joaquin for last and build up to him and we'll talk about the cast around him?
Yeah. I'm going to pull up. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
I can pull up the cast list.
Well, I'm actually going to pull it up for us.
Okay.
So you can start. We're gonna start, I would say, with who is your least favorite performance?
Right.
Start there.
I didn't have one. All
Okay,
the performances.
I mean, which performance did you like? You thought they were all amazing.
Oh,
Which one was kind of lacking?
his mom.
Oh, really, Francis?
Yeah, I understood why, but she was very one note the entire film, and it was kind of eh. But I understood. But when you find out why, I understood why her performance was very muted. It made more sense. And my favorite moment with her was was the scene where she died.
Mhm.
Where, well, no, because Arthur's, complaining to her, and she goes, "I love you," and he didn't even bother to talk about that. Hey, that show's really good. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
So we are smaller, but this way we can see the cast list, and everybody can see the cast list.
That's
So
fine.
we're talking about Frances Cornelia. And of course, if you want to say the name or anything like that, you totally can. You don't have to. But yeah, it's here.
Where's she? Okay, thank you. But no, I think Frances did a good job. It was just her performance was very muted, and to me, I kind of felt like when she talked, it was all over the place, much like her character. I think the scenes that fit best with her were the scenes where her and Arthur were together. Like my favorite moment between the two of them is the bath scene when he's giving her a bath and they're talking to each other, or the dance scene between the two of them, or when they first watched Murray together for the first time in the movie. I thought was really nice. But overall, that's the performance I kind of forgot about the most after the movie was over.
So my favorite scene between the two of them is actually when they argue about is this true type of thing. When he reads the letter.
That's it. Well, yeah, that's a good one too.
But I also do like, that he kills her and different things like that. I think those were really well done. My least favorite, I don't really know if I have one. I don't know. I would say Zazie Beetz. And it's not because I didn't like her in the movie. It's just because she's not really in the movie.
Really?
Well, I mean, she is in the movie, but she has the least amount of scenes out of everybody in this cast.
Yeah.
With her and Robert De Niro. But I would actually have to say maybe I counter that and say I liked her performance a little bit better than Robert's, because I think they used Robert as a name more than actual character.
I agree with you up to the end. I think they used De Niro as the name on the film until the ending of the movie. I think the ending of the movie, he became a character in the film.
But then again, I can counter, well, for me personally, I think the ending, the talk show scene that we're talking about, at the end, works so nicely because it was Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Whereas
Zazie, she has a couple of lines, but more or less, she's in the film as like sitting next to Arthur or making out with Arthur or sitting.
I did like the cute scene where she kissed him on the head, even though it's fake. But in that,
yeah, that was cute. My favorite scene between the two of them is the elevator scene in the set. That's my favorite moment in the movie between the two of them.
Okay, I guess so. We did talk about Robert De Niro. We did talk about Brett Kahn. Would you, just out of curiosity, is he on this list? He does not look like he is on this list. I'll go ahead and see full cast. What did you think of Bruce? Did you like the child actor they chose for Bruce? Dante Para Olsen.
He only had like what, 2 lines in the movie?
A very, very small character, but I was curious.
I liked the way he looked. He looked like the young Bruce Wayne. I like the bowl cut. I think he looked like the Bruce Wayne out of the comics. And like I said, his scene between him and Arthur is very, very well done. It was executed very well. I think the play on jokes was really nice in that scene. And I wonder if the kid felt kind of awkward when he felt when they were doing the scene. I wonder if he felt awkward when Joaquin put his hands in his mouth. I wonder how comfortable they had to like get to know each other before they even did that. I want to know more about that. I cannot wait to watch behind the scenes about this movie. It's going to be so awesome.
I don't know. I wasn't too impressed. I thought they could have chose a better, even though they did have such small scene, like he had such a limited amount of screen time. I personally think they could have chose a better Bruce Wayne. He is a child actor. I'm not going to hold anything against him or anything like that. Obviously, I mean, as a performance, it is what it is. But especially for like the final scene and having that emotional scene, and we're seeing his parents die, I just think we have seen it better.
To me, still, the kid who played young Bruce in Batman Begins, I think has done the best with the shooting of his.
Yeah, I agree. Something like that. I do want to mention, just to show you, Zachary, Sharon Washington right here.
plays the social worker.
And then Arkham Psychiatrist.
Played by April Grace. Okay. Um, you know, the other one that really didn't stand out for me because he's only in one scene. It was Brian Tyree Henry. His scene with Arthur in the Arkham Hospital, I think, was really good.
Yeah, I really, I was trying to find him. I really,
He's not. I saw him. Keep going. He's right there, Carl.
I really liked it, and I liked it because of how smart Arthur was, and how I think that was one of the scenes where he bashes his head against the thing to get the to make him jolt backwards. I really enjoyed it. But I think that's a perfect segue moving into the amazing and truly the standout of the performance, the movie that we follow the whole character through, Joaquin Phoenix for Arthur Fleck.
I have to say, I'm very impressed that there is not one scene in this movie that does not have him in it. And I can't say that about any other film. He is in every scene. And I love that because it's a character study. It focuses on him. And from the way that he, moves his shoulders to the way that when he's buckling down that shoe in the locker room, and you see his spine just tingle up. But for me, the reason this performance works so well, and I know I've talked about it already, is the way him and Phillips discussed how they did the laugh. The laugh in this movie, the way he does it, like after he laughs for a little bit, he does that cough and that wheeze, and it really stands out in the stand-up scene. He is just relentless with it, and I love how he's trying to talk. Joaquin is an actor's actor, and when he's trying to talk through the laugh, and then the 10-minute scene at the end of the movie, his focus is on him, and it doesn't change. I don't know how you can get that kind of acting out of somebody. I really don't, because they just nailed it. It is so hard for me now to go back and look at other Jokers and go, well, it wasn't Joaquin. Because I can now say Joaquin's Joker is now officially my favorite one. It is now surpassed. I never thought it would happen. It has surpassed Heath.
Well, I think it's
Joaquin is my favorite.
I think it is very interesting because I think there's a lot of comparisons that you could draw between the two. They're both such character actors. Some way too strong than others. I mean, it's really interesting. Even though we personally don't like the performance that Jared Leto gave for Suicide Squad, I do believe we need to add it in here. Because once again, I don't personally believe it was Jared Leto's fault. I think it was, the fact there was no script, the fact that it was a lot of improv and that, that type of thing. But just from stories you hear on set with Jared, he was such a character actor. He really wanted to become the Joker and make it, his own. And it's the same thing with Heath Ledger. That's the same thing with Joaquin Phoenix. It's so interesting the actors they are choosing to play the character, the demented clown.
Ever since Jack, I think Jack is the only one that really felt like he was reading a script while playing the character. These other three haven't.
And then also, going into other characters, other people who are known for playing the Joker.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill, you know what I mean?
Cesar Romero. The two TV ones, Hamill and Romero, I think of their time, understood what the character was and how it worked. Like with Romero, he felt like the old 60s comic book where, going after everything and, just laugh at everything. Hamill's Joker is very, gangster-like. And
disturbing.
That's why, yeah. Whereas Heath's Joker is very anarchist and very antisocial, much like Joaquin's.
Mm-hmm.
And Leto's Joker, I still don't know what he was trying to go for with his performance.
I was everywhere, and I do wonder, we can't, we've never seen his whole performance, supposedly. Who knows how much of that information is actually true.
Yeah, true.
But, I don't know if that plays a factor at all or anything like that. But, I'm not really sure. He was going for a gangster like
kind of
vibe.
vibe.
And there was, like I said, there's always that scene in the movie where he's talking and he sits on the lap and he's like, ooh, that I do see the Joker. It was the only moment in the movie where I actually saw the Joker.
Are you
But
talking about the scene in the club?
in the club, yeah. But Harley Quinn also only has one moment in that movie where I truly saw Harley Quinn. So, I mean, they both only had one moment to shine, and I think they both did. But, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah, no, I got you.
but I think he should be added because of the simple fact that I do think he made a bad impression, but he made an impression as the Joker.
An impression
And they're
nonetheless.
all such character actors, which is just really interesting that they chose character actors to perform this, and it really does show.
Well, I think it just proves that this character doesn't. It's hard to do this character without being in character. Like, it'd be really weird to see someone come into this role and just go off script and not really do anything else with it. I don't think it would feel as real as it could. Whereas with specifically Joaquin's, he doesn't feel like Joaquin Phoenix at all. He feels like a different person going through this descent. And I love the metaphor for the stairs in this film, and seeing like from like when the first time Joaquin walks up the stairs and to the last time as Joker jumping down the stairs in gleeful and happiness. And you can tell like his transition as an actor from going up to the transition to going and down. And much like with Heath Ledger, Joaquin has talked about it. The performance took a lot on him, and it was very intense for him to do what he did, and that makes me wonder if he'll ever come back, because I don't know mentally if he could do it again.
He's expressed interest in interviews.
Yes, I have read interviews where he's expressed interest in it. Yeah.
So, the last thing we're going to talk about is the news discussion. Now, as as the banner says, these are our opinions. Each person has their own opinion. I mean, this whole video is our opinions and how we interpret the material itself. And I personally have laughed at several headlines that have come out of it. Now, I also have agreed with some of them, such as the theater closing, the theater saying they're not going to show it because where the original shooting happened. There is nothing
wrong with that.
I do believe that they glorified it,
a little bit, yeah.
But I can also say there was a lot of people who called in threats, and I do think people glorified it.
I can say from my experience last night, there were 4 cops in my theater last night, stationed at the doors and at each end of the theater, and my ID had to be checked last night just to make sure that we could go into the theater. It just shows how paranoid people were still right now about it. And honestly, if the media wouldn't have reacted the way they did at Venice and then at TIFF, I don't think we'd be having this discussion.
I don't agree. And the only reason why I say that is I think ultimately, one, I think the media's reaction to it would always been the same. And I think it's just because of all the things Todd Phillips says here, especially about the media and several, other things.
Yeah.
They were always going to react quite negative to it. But we also had the conversation off camera about how most films who appear at Venice, they're not big movies. It's very rare, every year there's like 1 or 2 of them who are supposed to be blockbusters, who are supposed to do really well. Most of them are indie films that are supposed to make $10 million and get Oscar, buzz.
I think the last one before this one that did that kind of number at all was La La Land, I think, that made that kind of money out of the festivals.
And so, they're not supposed to be. And I think that was a thing, as well, is that people who see the movies at the Venice Film Festival are not the same people who are going to read about, this is what they watch. This is the thing that they expect. They expect the graphicness. They applaud it. They like the experimentation, the crossing of the line, type of thing. Because that's what award season eats up. how far can we push and how well does you do it while pushing it? You know what I mean? And I think that plays a factor into it. But what I find funny, and it has nothing to do with any of the threats, that stuff is scary and it's terrifying, and I wish it didn't happen. What I
I agree.
personally find funny about the whole situation is exactly what the movie says. It's everything the movie says. That whole conversation with the talk show, it's exactly saying, it's every oh, you can't, this movie's gonna be really bad because glorifies gun violence and all this other stuff, and they go over it in the movie. It's just a guy down on his luck, and they're not looking at it that way. They're looking at the violence, just like the talk show and the news inside the media was only looking at the violence, which I just find hilarious that they're not willing to even sit down and look at the movie as the movie, but they're willing to judge it completely, which is just
funny.
It's just funny. It's a joke.
And like the film says, if Arthur's Joker was a real thing in our life, he would laugh at this too. To him, this would have been what he would have wanted, for everybody to realize it's just a giant joke. Because, like you said, at the end of the film, after he shoots Murray, all the TVs are just talking about the shooting, nothing else, just the shooting, not the fact that he confessed to the murders, not the fact that he, anything, just the fact that he shot Murray. That's it.
He says multiple times, I have a laughing condition. There's something wrong with me mentally, not wrong, but you understand what I mean. He says these things and they don't pick up on it at all. All they care about is the fact that they shot him point blank, which I understand that something,
Yeah.
But still, I found it, especially after I saw the movie. Before I saw the movie, I was speculative, like, how bad is it? It really built the hype. It really played with the hype and different things and made me anticipate it. And then afterwards, I was like, oh my gosh, they're only focusing on one thing. And that one thing, as they clearly state in the movie, is they're trying to go against it. The movie itself is trying to show you there's a human behind the mask,
Yeah.
And the media is only showing the mask and not the human side, which is
funny.
It's funny, and that's the only part of it that is funny. Everything else is extremely sad, and I didn't read any articles or anything about anything bad happening at the event.
I don't think anything happened.
No, I think it was just threats. I do know a few movie theaters did pull it last minute, and they did get people that refunded tickets or whatever for whoever was going to go. They're not in theaters currently because it was only it's that.
I know our hometown pulled it,
and I personally do wonder, without all this, would the movie have made $100 million opening weekend? I think so.
I still think it would have.
I think so. I think it could have been bigger. But the great thing about a 90 million, one, surpassed all big things or whatever. But the good thing about it is simply just the fact that this tomorrow, when it comes out, however much money it made this weekend, any number will be really good. You know what I mean?
The biggest thing to take away from all the money aspect is that it did it. It did something. It did something Warner Brothers and DC were genuinely worried about. Like, was this going to sell well? Was it going to work? It worked.
And
it worked better than they thought it would.
Once again, I'm very curious to see how this does play for the Oscar campaign, because normally it's very rare for movies that do really well at the box office to do really well during the Oscar time, because they do like spotlighting smaller movies that don't do as well. And so I do wonder if that's going to hurt it. I also wonder if the 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, it was certified, but it was that close to not being, if that will hurt its chances as well moving forward.
I don't think it will. I think the fact that the reviews were the fact that the reviews were that strong shows that people are not looking at the comic book side of this film, that they're looking at the fact that it's what I said about Logan. And I stand true to this. That's what I say about Dark Knight. These films are not comic book movies. These are movies. These are films directed by people that care about film, not the pages it comes from. They care about the film. And Todd Phillips, who from what I gather from this film, loves this character. But he didn't want to make a comic book movie about the Joker. He wanted to make a character interpretation study on what this man's life was like going into becoming this character. And to me, that is worth the recognition from the Academy. Whereas with Avengers Endgame, I think if we get into the Oscar poll between the two of them, I think of anything Avengers has a shot at with the Oscars is the visual stuff. It'll be very interesting to see Avengers Endgame for Best Picture. I'd be really weird if it got it. But, it just proves Avengers Endgame is a great movie through and through. I had a blast watching it. But it's a comic book film. Joker is a movie. It's not a comic book movie. Joker is a character study. You don't bring your kids to see this movie. You go watch this film because you want to know more about this person. Avengers Endgame, you go watch it for the spectacular bombastic effects and all the crazy things and all that.
Also for the character. I mean,
and for the characters.
And for some of them, I do think that there was somewhat of a study on them. But this is a much more glorified version of that, without the big action sequences, and different things. That was something we never really talked about in the review, and which I'll mention right now, right before we sign off, is I still did believe that it was a DC film.
Yes.
But like I told you, I think it more fits in with the Nolan side of DC than it does the newer side. But I have plenty of theories to go around to make everything work in its own place.
Now, let me ask you a question before we send off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the reason Warner Brothers greenlit this film was because of how much of a Nolan-esque kind of film it was?
No, I think.
Or do you think if Todd Phillips went in and said, "Listen, I have a crazy idea for this wacky Joker movie involving Joaquin. He wants to do it, but it's crazy and mad and insane, and it's a character study, but it's all wacky and crap." But whereas when he came to Warner Brothers and said, "I want to do a grounded, realistic character study on the Joker," what do you think would have sold them more on doing it? The grounded or the wacky?
I personally don't think either. Interestingly enough, I personally truly think that what sold them on this, because you have to remember this movie was greenlit a few years ago. It wasn't like it was just like a new.
I remember when it got announced. I was like, "Oh, great, a Joker movie." Yeah, was I wrong?
It was a few years ago that it got greenlit, and it was right after Suicide Squad, or it was soon after. And Joker and Harley Quinn were both.
Yeah, it was the Joker and Harley Quinn movie, and then Joker got announced.
They were both like really in the hype of the two characters, and I think that's what forced them. And then the backlash towards Jared Leto's Joker made them think, okay, maybe we should do something different. And then Todd Phillips came up with the idea of introducing Elseworlds, and then the story changed from what it probably originally was to this newer, better version. Because
speaking of Jared Leto, have you read the reports on that? He's not wrong. I understand where he's coming from. He has the right to be upset.
Yeah.
But I understand where Warner Bros. Is coming from. If they would have done a Joker film with him, I don't think it would have done as well. I don't think.
I would have wanted a Joker Harley Quinn movie. I wouldn't have just wanted a singular Joker origin film or a Joker Batman movie. See the Joker side of the Batman story or something like that.
Or something of that nature.
I wouldn't want this story with Jared Leto.
I don't think it would have worked.
Against Jared Leto, it's just because of how they set up the character. It just But like I said, because Jacob has plenty of ideas, I do have an idea for Jared Leto because I do feel bad. And it's just what it is, But this video is very long, so thank you for anybody who did show up to the very end. If so, go ahead and put Joker in the comments and put your time, whatever time you did stop with, as I'm curious and, we want to see you. We'll shout you out in the next video or whatever video goes up when you get shout out. So hit the notification bell.
And make sure to like, subscribe, and, comment it up. Also, when you guys are down there, talk to each other, start conversations. What do you think about what's going on in society with Joker? how do you feel about the Wayne situation, and let us know about your theories, because we'll definitely be doing a theory video going forward about what we both think that Joker can do moving
And
forward within the DC universe.
we both agree that we do understand that this was a movie that was supposed to be a single movie and it can live on its own, but it's just us
Yes.
being fun and hoping that maybe it won't. But just don't come at us for wanting to do more, because I have
No.
some major backlash.
Yeah, because
on the internet.
if nothing ever happened again with this movie, I'd be fine with it. I was worried I wasn't going to be, but I'm fine with it. We got a bookend. It's done. We can move on from it. But I won't be upset if we see him again. I really won't be.
To the point of where I have moved him in full time. So, to each their own. All right, well, guys.
Let him be the Joker. Let him be the Joker.
And we'll talk to you guys soon with another video. I know we both have plenty of content coming your way, and it should be up relatively soon. Hopefully this video is also up relatively soon.
Soon.
Okay.
See you guys later.